FTC called out by U.S. Congress for siding with Sony. U.S. Congress has been on Sony's case since it started opposing Microsoft's landmark purchase of Activision Blizzard. Recently, U.S. legislators have called out the PlayStation maker for alleged underhanded business practices against Xbox, as well as hampering the progress of the Xbox via its exclusivity deals in Japan. A U.S. lawmaker asked why the FTC is protecting Sony over the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. Congress representatives now have the U.S. Federal Trade Commission in their crosshairs. A lawmaker asked the antitrust regulator to explain why it sided with Sony in its opposition to the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard merger. The FTC filed a lawsuit several months ago to block the landmark deal that is worth $69 billion. It's a lot of money, man. This is like by and far the biggest acquisition in the gaming industry ever if it actually comes to fruition. And I think it will. I've always thought it would. They've obviously had some hurdles to get through and stuff, but I think we're getting closer and closer here to this actually coming, actually happening and stuff. But yo, Mithril, what's up, buddy? So this is a big deal, though. During the April 18th hearing for the FTC budget for 2024, Republican Representative Diana Harshbarger took the opportunity to inquire why the agency, quote, sided with Sony in blocking the deal between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. The lawmaker alleges that the FTC is protecting Sony, which controls 68% of the global market for high-end video game consoles. Sony has been the most vocal opponent of the deal, and the FTC sided with Sony, Harshbarger said. Can you explain why? FTC Chair Lina Khan responded by saying that the regulatory body finds feedback from the market players, big companies included, highly beneficial. She adds that the FTC's attempt to block the merger is based on its independent assessment and is based on the law and the facts. The FTC lawsuit is Microsoft's biggest hurdle in its bid to acquire Call of Duty developer and publisher Activision Blizzard. The acquisition also includes King, one of the leading mobile game developers and makers of the video game Candy Crush. Microsoft has a big week ahead of it as the UK CMA and EU Commission are set to finalize their rulings on the deal, which everybody's kind of thinking that they are satisfied now with all these 10-year deals that Microsoft's been pushing out to all their competitors. The UK CMA has softened its stance on the merger in the recent weeks, even suggesting that there is no significant reduction in competition should Microsoft withhold Call of Duty from its rival console. Reports suggest that Microsoft will likely offer concessions to the EU Commission to get the ball rolling. According to reports, the EU may approve the deal as Microsoft has offered licensing deals with various consoles and platforms for the Call of Duty franchise. The tech giant has now shaken hands on deals to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo, Nvidia, Boosteroid, and EE, among a few others. Microsoft has also extended, and so to be clear, this all happened after they initially tried to hand a deal over to Sony. So the first thing they tried to do, wait, do what, Mizrael? I think they just needed some extra money. Is that what it was? I mean, you have to wonder between all of this, like how, because I don't think it's lost on anybody that a lot of these, I can only assume that as corrupt as a lot of the, politics go in the world, and we're dealing with regulatory committees and stuff like that. How many of the big players in these regulatory committees across the world have connections to some of these higher ups in these companies that are in the midst of this situation here, and they're like, rubbing elbows together, and there's got to be a lot of really, really weird connections going on within this entire situation. I can only assume. But again, initially, there's lots of under the money kind of, or under the table kind of stuff. Yeah. I can only assume. I've only, the whole time freshly is kind of what I've been thinking, no doubt. So again, if you didn't know, initially, before Microsoft tried to give a deal to anybody, they tried to give a deal to Sony, saying, Yo, we will. Sony's already they're still on like roughly another 2 to 3 year contract for having Call of Duty on their platform. But Microsoft said we'll give you an extension. We don't know the terms of that, but PlayStation shot it down. Sony and PlayStation shot it down immediately. And again, I've said the whole time it wouldn't really matter what Microsoft and Xbox offered Sony and PlayStation in regards to that contract. Sony PlayStation was going to shoot it down the whole time because they've always wanted it to look anti-competitive. So they shot it down. They said, "Oh, this deal was terrible, and there's no way we could agree to that." But we never really saw the terms. Well, smart play by Microsoft. Immediately after, they went to Nintendo and were like, "Well, how would you like a 10-year deal for Call of Duty?" And Nintendo was like, "We'll take it," which made Sony look terrible. And then after that, there was like Nvidia was talking about, because Nvidia's Microsoft and Xbox's biggest competitor in the cloud gaming space, and they were talking about how it was anti-competitive. So Microsoft was like, "Well, you want a 10-year deal for Call of Duty on Nvidia cloud gaming?" And Nvidia was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then Nvidia was like, "All right, we're all good." So Microsoft's just been like dishing out all these 10-year deals now to appease everybody. And yeah, while I think what people need to understand is, like, a lot of people look at it as like Microsoft is just going to be dishing out money and not getting anything in return. That's not necessarily the case here. Call of Duty is the biggest title they're going to be getting out of this acquisition. But the portfolio they're taking in off of this acquisition from Activision Blizzard is insanely huge. The magnitude of this and what it does for Microsoft and Xbox moving forward is basically limitless. They're trying to get an app store set up to compete with Google and Apple. That's a big thing that this will get them kind of the ball rolling for that, as well as just they've got so many titles that will be under their belt now. More titles for Game Pass, more titles for the Xbox platform alone, for Windows also, as well as all these other titles that like maybe Blizzard and Activision have just been sitting on for a long time that fans have been asking for, like remasters or remakes of, or even just getting the series rolling again, that have just been sitting in a closet forever that Activision Blizzard hasn't been willing to touch. Those are potential options for Microsoft and Xbox moving forward. So to think that, what they're doing and dishing out these 10-year deals is all for naught, that's I think a very short-sighted way of looking at what this entire deal is doing for Microsoft and for Xbox, because of this. I mean, this portfolio of games they're getting off of Activision Blizzard is massive. It's huge. Microsoft has also extended several offers to Sony for a 10-year licensing deal for the Call of Duty series. Licensing deal between Activision and Sony is set to expire next year. Yeah, like I said, but Sony shot all these down. Yeah. Microsoft has until the middle of the year to complete the deal. If for any reason the deal is not completed by July of 2023, Microsoft will be paying a hefty fine and will need to renegotiate the terms of the deal. All right. So we haven't hit. I mean, we've been following this for a very long time, but we haven't hit on it in a while. So hopefully that will kind of break it down for everybody that's not aware of what the entire situation is going on here with what has happened, and all the way up to what the current situation is regarding Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. Okay.